Oh, hello, John. Good to see you. And
Good
it's
to see you,
great.
Drew. Glad you're here.
Oh,
Glad we're here.
virtual hugs, miss
Virtual
you.
hugs,
And that hug goes for you too.
Yeah,
You're
you
the
guys.
third person in
Yeah.
this, not you, John, but you listening or watching.
You.
We appreciate you. We're glad you're with us. It's the three of us. So come on in.
Like-
Today is an either or show. And when I said, John, we're going to do either or, Johnny, he pumped up. And it's kind of like we're going to veer off. We're going to do either or. It's about the draft. But
Okay.
I want to tell you, get up, thinking about pumped up. So I did this event last week out at ConocoPhillips, and it was pretty fun. It was me interviewing Brian Cushing. And we were talking about a bunch of different things for a lot of their employees. There are probably about 50, 60 people in the room. Really cool crowd, really smart crowd. They asked phenomenal questions. Some of the best questions I've ever been asked or I've ever seen asked at an event like this. But anyways, as I was coming down the hallway out here before to leave for the event, a couple of players were walking into the weight room. One of them was Henry To'o,
Yeah.
linebacker. Fantastic season last year in year two. Well, what's next, man? That's going to be in the lab coming up. The Don't You Forget About Me.
Yeah.
You and Mark have done that a time or two. We're gonna
I like that one.
But I saw Henry, and Henry's real off the field. He's real easy going.
Right.
I was like, "What you up to?" And he's like, "Oh, not much. What you doing?" I was like, "Well, hey, I'm actually going to go do an interview with Brian Cushing." And Henry, something snapped. He's like, "That's a dog. Brian Cushing's a dog."
Yeah.
So it made me happy because he's young. Henry To'o is young, but he knows, and he saw Brian Cushing, and he saw a guy who plays his position for the same franchise, and it was cool to see that. And then I told that story at the crowd later, and as I was setting it up, I said Henry To'o and Cushing. I didn't see him, but I heard him, and kind of in the periphery, I noticed he tensed up. He's like, yeah. I think Cushing likes To'o too. So it was like a really cool linebacker synergy moment.
Yeah, mutual admiration.
It really was
I like
awesome.
that.
Yeah,
man. That's really, really cool.
And one little corollary from that, before Cushing came in, you might remember Brian Cushing is a muscular dude.
Yeah, very.
I'm talking with this lady that works for ConocoPhillips. Nice lady. We're chit-chatting about some things. He comes in, meets a lot of these folks, and then he goes to get a water, walks away, and she turns to me. She's like this. She's like, "He looks like Jack Reacher."
Oh,
not
man.
far off, man.
Well,
not far off.
do you know the guy that plays Jack Reacher? I can't remember.
His name's Alan Richson.
Yeah.
And I looked him up. Yeah. And I've read some of the books. He's a little different than the character in the character in the books is like a big, burly, country strong, scruffy looking guy.
Right.
This guy is like all.
Well, the irony of all ironies is the fact that one of his first acting assignments,
American Idol,
was on Blue Mountain State, a comedy, kind of a blue comedy. It was a little off color. He plays a linebacker, an All-American linebacker for Blue Mountain State, whatever. I can't remember what the name of the school. Maybe it was Blue Mountain. I can't remember. But it's a really off-color sitcom, so I'm not saying go watch it or anything, but it's about a college, university, and it's every like wrong stereotype. Sure. The quarterback is, he boozes and before the games, and it's every wrong stereotype. And it's Alan Richson, right?
Richson.
He plays this kind of goofy, meathead linebacker, and is hilarious, absolutely hilarious. So the Cushing kind of parallels, are there. Other than the fact that Cushing was not, I think there was a lot of Cush kind of playing for the cameras in a sense of just like his, people kind of thought he was a meathead, but
Brian's
Cushing
was
very
smart,
far from that.
Yeah.
But just the correlation that she had with that's Jack Reacher, and Alan Richson, that just made me laugh, thinking, yeah, absolutely. And Richardson played that linebacker in Blue Mountain State, that sitcom. So don't go watch it. I'm not advocating for it.
But this
but it's just funny.
Innocent. He looks like Jack Reed. It was hilarious.
That's funny.
It's hilarious. Okay.
That's really funny.
Let's get into the meat of the subject here. It's either or time.
Okay.
When it comes to the Houston Texans and the NFL draft. Last week, if you haven't seen it or listened, go back and watch this in the lab that we did, because we did some a mock draft simulation.
Yep.
Picked a pretty good crop of Texans. And remarkably, we didn't make any trades because we didn't like any of the trades. I don't think that's going to happen. You don't think that's going to happen. You do think that
And there'll
Nick
be a
Caserio,
trade or
yeah,
two.
they're going to move things around.
Yeah.
Like they always do. They always have under Nick Caserio during draft day weekend. But either or, all things being equal, and Emeka Egbuka is there, the wide receiver from Ohio State. He's one of the most mocked players to the Texans.
Yes.
If he's available, or Gray Zabel is there, out of those two, who would you see that you think the Texans would take him?
If I rely solely on my board, which you can see at footballtakeover.com, I got my Harris 100. I'm still kind of getting it right where I want, so I don't have it posted just yet, but it'll be posted soon. My Harris 100. I have Egbuka ranked ahead of Gray Zabel, just purely where I have them ranked.
Okay,
and I think Gray Zabel ends up being a longtime starter in this league, but it might take a little bit. Having played at the FCS level, we've seen FCS players struggle a little bit. Titus came in, and Titus as a rookie, Titus played pretty well, but he only played 8 games,
right?
And got comfortable with it. And we've seen Titus, have to learn how to be an NFL guard from Alabama State and or guard tackle. I mean, that it could be a challenge at times, and I think Titus would be a good one to talk to about the challenges of going from facing guys. And now Titus had a really good last year at Alabama State, and one of the reasons he ended up getting drafted in the first round was how he performed against Auburn that year, playing against some of the best in the SEC, and that really kind of caught everybody's attention. And Gray Zabel did that at the Senior Bowl. Wasn't perfect, but you saw some of that grit and that grind, and I know we've talked about the offensive line, and I really would like to have offensive linemen the caliber of Gray Zabel. There's no question about that. But if I just go purely on my board and I look at the wide receiver position, and I think what the Texans have done in the offseason, that receiver drew with, I think Justin Watson's flying well under the radar. But you brought in Braxton Berrios as well, and then obviously the trade for Christian Kirk. I think Kirk ends up being your number 2. But I think at 25, getting a guy like Egbuka, he's so steady. And my comp, when I watched Egbuka, this is even back in 23, I had this thought back.
I know where
you know where I'm going with this, and I've comped him to a young Robert Woods. And what's funny is I went and I found a highlight reel of Robert Woods from his time at USC. And I'm just like, I mean, first of all, the number stands out, number 2, but still, just body type, what they asked him to do, how gritty and how swarmy Robert Woods was and will remain throughout his career. He's just obviously gotten up in years and been in the league for a while. And I'm like, man, I feel like I'm watching Egbuka. And I watch Egbuka and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm watching Robert Woods. I feel like the same things I said about Robert Woods, the same things I feel about Robert Woods, I have that feeling about Egbuka. And then you realize his off the field character, or just his football character, are pristine, spot on. I don't know that about Gray Zabel. My gut tells me that there are no issues there. I know for a fact, talking to the number of people I did at the combine, Egbuka, like they rave about Egbuka at Ohio State. And I think there are a few guys at Ohio State that people rave about from that standpoint. So I just feel like Egbuka would be a perfect fit. And I want to go with Egbuka. I would go with Egbuka.
Okay. Let's stick with him. He's there, or Luther Burden, Missouri wide receiver. Who do you think the Texans would go with?
Egbuka.
Okay.
It's funny. Bob McGinn, who now does his anonymous scout thing for, I shouldn't call it a thing because the work that he does is incredible. But he gets anonymous scouts.
He'd been with Milwaukee or with Green Bay?
Yeah, it was with Milwaukee, Green Bay. It was in Wisconsin.
Milwaukee
Sentinel Journal, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he would get anonymous scouts to talk, and there was a few things about Burden that he said, talking about the impact of his mom, I guess his girlfriend or fiance runs all his management stuff. And so there was a scout that was not very, sorry, way of saying it. He was not very positive about that. Now, we've seen situations like that in the past. I can tell you that I was told by numerous people about the impact of Sting's dad during the draft process and all that kind of stuff, and people thought that was going to be a major problem, and I don't think it's even a problem. And talking to Derek Stingley Sr. the other day, you realize, okay, you see exactly where Derek Stingley gets it, and you're like, okay, that was not an issue. So if I take that part of it out, I just feel I feel like I trust Egbuka a little bit more.
Okay.
I think Burden is electric. My comp for Burden actually is Stephon Diggs, because about the same size, kind of that same electricity in the way he plays the game. I think Burden's probably just a tick faster. Steph didn't test extremely well coming out of Maryland, and that's why he ended up going in the 4th, 5th round, whatever it ended up being. It was day 3 pick. But I think Burden will test a lot better, but just that kind of start-stop suddenness, the twitchy stuff. Yeah, you see that with Burden. But I think where people are getting lost in Ibuka is they think, well, he's just a slot receiver. Oh, he doesn't have kind of that kind of twitch that Burden does. And it's true. I don't think Emeka has quite that burst, but Emeka's got a lot of what you like in getting separation, then catching the football, then making plays after the catch. His route running in football intelligence, you can see in the things that he does. I pointed out in the Cotton Bowl, there's a 2-play sequence back to back where Ibuka on the first one on a third down catch gets separation from a slot guy, just the way he runs his route. And on the second one, he does the same thing. He beats the nickel man-to-man, and he gets cross-face on his leverage, and then he runs a route to the inside. And Ibuka knows the linebacker is coming and the safety are closing from the other side. So instead of running into them, he bends his route just a little bit more upfield so his quarterback can hit that hole. Boom, makes a nice sliding catch, first down, like back-to-back plays. And I'm like, you add that to the Texans on back-to-back plays, I feel really solid about Ibuka. So I'm going to Ibuka
with the quarterback he's played with before.
Yep, absolutely.
So he's probably got a little.
You got that right. Absolutely.
As well. Okay, Matthew, Golden or Ibuka?
Golden.
Just because of the speed and
I have two top off. Well, depending on how you classify Travis Hunter, receiver, corner,
right,
or whatever. My wide receiver one is still T-Mac, Teteroa McMillan. I love T-Mac. I think he is I think he's DeAndre Hopkins with a couple more inches and a little bit more size. He's got the best hands that I've seen as a prospect since Hop. I mean, he's got incredible glue sticks. He ran 4.5, which to me at 6'4", 215, 220, whatever he is, like ran 4.5. He's got incredible ball skills. I've comped him to Drake London. I'm like, man, could you add Drake London this offense with Nico and Kirk? And like, yeah. I don't think McMillan's going to get to us. My next receiver is Matthew Golden. Runs a 4.29. That shows up in the way he plays, his ability to pull away from defenders. He's from Houston. There's always been kind of this passion seemingly about Houston. And I want to say he went to Klein Kane. I could be wrong about that, but I just know he's a Houstonian. I kind of fell in love with the guy when he's at University of Houston. He had 2 kickoff returns for a touchdown, and you're like, whoa, this guy is different. But I think his receiver game really expanded when he got to the University of Texas. Now, not a big guy, about 5'11", but he's 172, so he's not a big guy. But he's bigger than Tank, even faster than Tank. And you had a speed element, but just a guy that puts some fear in defenses with CJ throwing it deep on it. To me, after Nico got hurt in that game against the Bills last year, Drew, I think our deep ball game just died.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that we've got to be able to bring back. And I think a guy like Matthew Golden, absolutely. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Ibuka can give you some of that too. But I think Golden gives it to you even more so.
Got it.
So I would go Golden at that point.
Okay. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle from Ohio State, or Gray Zabel. Like all those wide receivers are gone.
Okay, all the receivers are gone. I've got Simmons or Zabel. I really want to say Josh Simmons. And I think
just because you bring him in and you let all the other competition and he's part of the competition, but let all that stuff sort out, let the cream rise to the top.
You know me, you've been around me long enough. The injuries going into the draft always kind of worry me a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'd be a hypocrite if I said that would keep me from drafting Simmons because I was Sauce over Sting the whole way. I was Sting over Sauce the whole way.
Yeah.
And even though he had 2 straight years of injuries, I was a Stingley guy the entire way. In 2023, his first year on campus at Ohio State, he transferred from San Diego State. I'm watching, and they CJ had left, and a lot of the offense had left. So I was like watching the offensive line. I'm like, man, who's 71? That dude moves. Mm-hmm. Holy cow! Kept watching him like this guy's pretty good. Nobody's talking about him. I thought something was wrong with me, and I started looking him up. I'm like, okay, what's his deal? And so continuing on into 2024, Simmons had been on my radar screen for a while, but I'm like, man, nobody's talking about him. So am I wrong? All right, we'll see. Well, all of a sudden, the first month of 2024, everybody's talking, the highest riser, Josh Simmons. I'm like, okay, people, all right. I wasn't crazy.
Got it.
This dude is a natural tackle. Natural. The way he moves, he's got some bleep in his system. He is tough and gritty. I would end up taking Josh Simmons. In fact, I got a feeling that Josh Simmons, for me and my Harris 100, when it's all said and done, he's going to be top 15
Okay.
Yeah. Zay will be around 29, 30. But Simmons is going to be top 15. I think you could almost make a case he's the best pure tackle in this draft. And I'm almost ready to make that case that he's the best pure tackle in this draft.
Okay.
So I'll go Simmons.
How about this one? Either the Texans will trade up to get Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama, and I don't know how high they have to go to do that.
Yeah, it's a good question, yeah.
Or they will trade out of the first round. He's got some ammo. He's got Nick Caserio. He's got 4 picks in the top 90-some. Plus extras next year, too.
Yeah, Booker becomes really, really interesting because I think people in the media have sort of soured on him because, in a sense, well, he's not that athletic. Then you start, well, he's not that athletic. Okay, he's going to have issues with athletic bigs in the middle. No. This guy is an alpha in the locker room. That is something that has been discussed often about the offensive line room needing some alphas. I think trading up for Tyler Booker. Now, the question becomes how far you have to go up.
That's what I said, yeah.
That's the tricky part because I can make a case for Booker at 11 to the Niners, Booker at 12 to the Dallas Cowboys.
I can't see the Cowboys taking him.
I can't.
They need him.
They need him.
I can't see them doing that.
In my last mock draft, that's where I had Booker going because I'm like, well, and it was just after Zach Martin had retired. And if you think back to 2014,
it seems like too smart a move for them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, 2014, they made a smart move.
Yeah.
And they went Zach Martin over Johnny Manziel. So if they can do that, that worries me about Booker because I think they need some help on the interior and the offensive line. But I think the Cowboys will do something flashy. I just have the feeling like this is a year for them to be flashy.
Traded up to go.
Yeah, they went with offensive lineman last year. I can see Jerry in the room going, hey, we went with your offensive lineman last year. This year, we're going some flash. We want that wide receiver from Brown University. Like, okay.
His name is.
But I just have a feeling that when I heard Tyler Booker say he essentially looked at Will Anderson Jr. for his leadership, where to go in being a leader and how to be a leader. And he looked at Will.
And then
that's what it hit me like,
and
okay.
Then everything this offseason.
That's right.
Texans,
And he steps in at guard, and he is a hammer in the run game. He is strong as an ox. I mean, his hands, God bless. When he latches on to big, strong dudes in the SEC, they go nowhere. Is he perfect? No. Is he going to get beat by some quicker? Is Quinnen Williams going to beat him? Probably. Quinnen Williams beats everybody.
Yeah.
Quinnen Williams beat Zach Martin and the best guards there have ever been. So Quinnen Williams is going to beat those guys. Well, luckily we don't play Quinnen Williams this year, but we do play Chris Jones. Could Booker handle Chris Jones one-on-one? Yeah, I'd like to think that he could because the other part of that is Tyler Booker would then get to hammer Chris Jones in the run game a little bit and wear him down, which I kind of like. So I think trading up. Now, here's the thing. There are a number of guys you could convince me that they could trade up to go get. And, would they trade up to go get Booker? Yes. Kelvin Banks? Yes. The question.
You think they'd trade up to get Kelvin Banks?
Well, this
tackle from Texas?
This is my point. You kind of alluded to this. How much? Like, what is your.
Right.
I want to go up 10 picks to go get Booker. I want to go up 5 picks to get Banks. I want to go up 15 picks to go get Will Campbell because he's fallen to number 10. There's there's that part that gets really, really interesting. Do I want to go up and get Matthew Golden? Golden's sitting there at 20. Man, let me go get him. Or I think one team to keep an eye on, and I actually saw this on a website, the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons only have 5 picks because of the Penix trade. And so they don't have a lot. And so they'd like to replenish. They're sitting there at 15. 15's a nice little sweet spot.
Sweet spot, man.
Now, that's 10 picks. So you are going to have to give up a little bit, and it's probably going to be a little bit more than you want to give up. But for Booker, for Banks, for Golden, for those guys kind of in that range, I could see it. Maybe even T-Mac. The thing I like about all those guys that we're talking about is they feel swarmy. They feel like they would fit. Now, the fact that I've mentioned 4 guys that I feel like could be really good fits for the Texans, that also makes me think that Nick sits there and goes, yeah, that's 4 guys. The probability is that one of them will be there at 25, and we feel very good about that. So we don't have to give up extra draft lanyap. We can just sit here at 25.
Yeah.
Now, if you start seeing you're sitting there thinking now with the Falcons at 15, but all of a sudden 2 or 3 of them go off the board the next 5 picks. You're like, now maybe they go up and get one of those guys that ends up remaining. And I think that could end up being Booker. As much as I love Booker, I just think teams like, guard. And Booker's a true guard. Booker isn't playing tackle. Booker's not playing center. He is a guard. Left guard mainly, but I would imagine you could play right guard with him too. He's a guard, and I think that, I don't want to say it hurts his value, but I think it just maybe limits. There might be 2 teams, 3 teams that go,
sort of anchors it.
Yes. We want a little bit more scheme flex, and we get that with Gray Zabel. You got to know you have a need at guard. And the flip side of that is there are some teams that definitely have needs at guard, no doubt.
All right, well, let's get rid of the either-ors. It's our final question of the day.
Good.
Let's say some odd alternate universe is out there, and the Texans had the first overall pick.
Oh,
they weren't going to trade it. They're taking their player at number 1 overall. Who's a pick for the Texans? Not a quarterback, obviously.
I know exactly what I do. This would be Travis Hunter to me all day, every day. Okay. And here's why. I actually texted Sean Pendergast at some point. I don't know why. I think they were maybe talking about it in the air, and I had a thought. I was like, I said, Sean, I kind of half jokingly said, if I were Nick, I'd trade everything I've got to get up to go get Travis Hunter, because Travis would end up killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Because yes, the Texans signed Ronald Darby. I think it's a really good move, but I feel like you could take Travis and you could put him on a slot, or you could have Travis play man-to-man on the outside and put Kamari on a slot and have Sting, Travis Hunter, and Kamari Lassiter going man-to-man on the 3 best receivers on their side, and you are absolutely no-fly zone at that point. Plus, you then can add Travis Hunter at receiver, and he becomes the 2 or 3 receiver, giving you downfield components, giving you catch-and-run situations, giving you kind of that X factor. You can give him push passes, jet sweeps, all that kind of stuff. And you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So to me, it would be Travis Hunter. Now, the flip side of that is my number 1 overall player in the Harris 100 is Abdul Carter from Penn State. But I'm not going to sit there and tell you Abdul Carter, Daniil Hunter, and Will Anderson wouldn't scare a lot of people. I just feel like you could satisfy some needs with Travis Hunter on both sides of the ball. And how exciting would that be with a guy on both sides of the ball? And he wouldn't have to be a full-time on either side. We need him in nickel situations. Boom, he's in. We need him at number 3 wide receiver. And there might be a game where, hey, look, we need Travis offensively in this game more than you need him defensively. Okay, he focuses on offense that week. So I think it's going to be really fun for a team, whatever they do with Travis Hunter, but they better have a plan going in. That would be my plan going in. I would be up front with him. It's like, this is what we're going to do. And normally a player gets 60, 65 plays a game. About that. Travis, we're going to play you 80 plays a game. And we don't know how that split's going to go, but we know you're getting 80 plays a game. You're almost like you're a pitch count. Yeah, but I can do more. We'll build it up. But right now, you're going to play 80 plays, and we're going to mix it with receiver and DB, and it would be a perfect fit in my estimation. My worry is that quarterbacks, Jackson Dart kind of sneaks into the top 3 with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, and all of a sudden Travis Hunter is sitting there available for the Jaguars. Like, no, I don't want that to happen. But we'll see. But Travis Hunter would be my pick for that particular reason.
Good stuff. It'd be fun to see how practices go down.
Oh.
What's he doing in practice?
Yes.
Who's he with? How long?
Yes.
Et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, well, this has been fun. This alternate universe that we go into sometimes in the lab, which is very often, if you've paid any attention to this over the years.
Very often.
But, John, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you checking us out. We couldn't do this without you. It's the 3 of us. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family. And this has been In the Lab, presented by Xfinity. We'll be back again next week.